Welcome to House of Horns. My name is Victor Corona, aka Vic the Producer, and today we're here to preview the matchup of in Week 3 between the Los Angeles Rams and the Philadelphia Eagles. And joining me, as always, is Gilbert Manzano, who does it for Sports Illustrated, MMQB. Gilbert, are you tired of the tush push? And how many times will we get into talking about the tush push in this episode today?
Not really, but I'll say this: I'm a little bored with ego games, and because they're just not appealing. But I do appreciate the tush push. I do appreciate the execution. I do appreciate the weapon that they have there. I appreciate the work that goes into having big bodies execute at that level, and then investing in that in the draft and free agency. It's an advantage. Don't cry me a river and try to get it out the game. Sean McVay was one of those people saying, "Get it out the game." So this could be uh, a game where the Eagles say, "Okay, you don't want it in the game. Maybe you'll get rid of it next year or the year after that, but not today. Here's a touch push." So it's on Sean McVay to find a way to beat it. And then if he beats it in this game, Victor, and he wants to complain about it in the offseason, I'm like, sure, go ahead, McVay. You know how to beat it now. You want to get rid of it still? Go ahead. So it's a lot riding on the line for this tush push controversy.
Yeah. Yeah, and we'll get into all that. We'll get into some of the comments that he made about the tush push and some of the things that came out of that Chiefs game. We'll get into all that, but we'll get into the latest news and notes, plus storylines for both teams going into this matchup. And lastly, we'll do our game predictions. But before we get to all that, Gilbert, and we preview this matchup, do you have an engagement question for our viewers and listeners?
Yeah, it's a big game vibes here for week 3 at House of Horns. Rams versus Eagles divisional playoff rematch. Remember, those Rams were this close to beating the defending Super Bowl champions. Matthew Stafford trying to connect with Puka Nakua. So, what is it here? What are the keys to a Rams victory to beat the Eagles? Do you feed off of that motivation, that revenge factor of being this close to beat Philadelphia when the Chiefs got blown out, Commanders got blown out, the Packers got blown out, not the Rams? Is that the way you beat them, by being hungry and want to inflict some pain on the team that gave you pain all of offseason? Or is it you show off Nate Landman? You could now stop the run. You could stop Saquon Barkley in the tush push. You got bigger bodies. Your DBs are playing better. You could cover better. Uh, your big boys up top are playing better against the run. You got Puna Ford now. Are these the pieces now that you got in the offseason to beat the Eagles? And on the flip side, if you're able to contain them and you play keep away, you got Devontae Adams now to push the ball down the field with Puka and Matthew and Kyron. So what are the actual keys here for the Rams victory? Let me know in the comments here.
Yeah, a lot to get into, especially with both sides of the ball. I think there's some ways where you can beat the Eagles now, especially after what they've shown the first two games. But we'll get into that and we'll break it down. All right, Gilbert, let's get to our Rams news and notes segment plus injury report. We'll start off with the injury report for both teams here. The Rams injury report hasn't come out yet, but
I
Sean
saw it.
McVay,
I saw it
yeah.
somewhere. Rick. I'm gonna
Oh,
rattle
Sean
it off.
McVay did, yeah. But Sean McVay did give us a heads up on it. He said Steve Avila, who has a sprained ankle, and defensive lineman Brandon Fisk who has an oblique, will not practice today. Rob Havenstein and Devontae Adams have a veteran rest day, but are expected to practice on Thursday. And a limited participant will be Kobe Parkinson's tight end with a shoulder injury who missed last week's game against the Titans. So that is your injury report for the Rams. And then for the Eagles, running back Will Shipley did not practice today. And then they had three players on limited participation. Jalen Carter with the shoulder, tight end Dallas Goddard, who missed the game against the Chiefs with the knee, and quarterback Tanner McKee with the right thumb. So those were limited participants. Yeah, so that takes care of the injury report. Anything that stands out to you from both of those, from the Rams and the Eagles perspective?
Yeah, maybe the only concern from the Eagles front is 'cause I'm sure Jalen Carr is going to play, but if Goddard has to miss a game, this might be a game where you need Goddard, where you need to have a little more of a passing game than what you've had the first couple weeks here, because I think the Rams are better defensively. I think they're gonna get him off the field a couple times to set the tone. And if you fall behind to Devontae Adams, Puka, and Stafford, you better have some pass catchers. So if Goddard's not available, that could be a tough one for them.
Yeah, and yeah, he's been the security blanket for Jalen Hurts, especially since they've been controlling the clock, and so not having Dallas Goedert, I think could be in uh something to keep an eye on.
Hello,
But it looks like
Bernard.
we have Bernard in our comments, who's a Eagles fan, and he's feeling very positive about
Bernard
uh,
dog. How's it
the
going?
Nard dog from The Office there. All right, Gilbert, let's get to I guess our
Well,
the
well, real quick,
notes.
Victor, for the audio
Yeah,
people, Bernard is saying Eagles are going to beat your ass. So
yes,
you're that people in the audio version, Rams fans, get fired up from Bernard
yeah.
dog.
Big game and game in week 3, so ready to go. Philly fans are already in the comments, which is awesome to see. We expected that in this matchup here. Um, so a couple of things here in terms of the notes, Gilbert. Rams have signed cornerback Trey Brown in the wake of Ahkello Witherspoon's clavicle injury.
Yeah. So they signed Trey Brown. Is that what you said? Sorry, missed the
Yes.
first part.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So yeah, they
he's an
signed Trey Brown.
experienced Seahawks cornerback. I don't know if you saw how many starts he's had, Vic, but I know he's played a good amount for Seattle. I'm not sure if he's bounced around after that from Seattle. Do you know that, Vic?
Yeah, his biggest thing is that he's been injured a lot. So that's been his biggest thing. If he can stay healthy, he can be someone that can help out.
Yeah, I remember Trey Brown's name from those Seattle days where they were trying to make Rick Woolen a thing. He has not been good, by the way.
Nope.
But I'm checking. Yeah, he was with the 49ers last year. I'm well, actually this year. So I think he got waived from the 49ers. Was with the Seahawks 21, 22, 23, 24. He had some good depth there for guys like, Witherspoon with the Seahawks and Woolen, like I mentioned. So he's a good backup. And I'm not surprised that the Rams took him. By the way, the Rams took Darion Kendrick, who's playing well. So you know what? Just kind of feed off of each other and take each other's cornerbacks there in Seattle and LA. So you need the help though, because with Ahkello Witherspoon, that is not Devin Witherspoon from the Seahawks. He's been playing pretty well. So to lose him, that's a big blow. Bringing somebody experienced like that, like a Trey Brown, why not?
Yeah. And we figured that once they lost Ahkello Witherspoon to that clavicle injury, they would bring somebody in. Um, Another thing, kind of, just in terms of where Puka just continues to break records or be at the top of his game. Puka Nakua is now second all time with 16 games of 90 plus receiving yards in a player's first 30 games. So Odell Beckham is number one with 18. So, just continue. Puka Nakua just continues to play outstanding, and a lot of the credit goes to him for, continuing to play well.
Yeah, it's become like the mailman. Puka Nakua is always going to deliver and arrive and be on time and bail people out. And Bernard, believe it or not, I think Puka Nakua and Devontae Adams are going to give some problems there to that Eagle secondary. But Bernard, if you want to keep trash talking, that's fine. We welcome that here. I got no skin in the game here. But
Yeah.
do you have anything you want us to discuss or anything you feel good about for the Eagles? We would love to know here and discuss it. Are you okay with the Eagles secondary? Because I know Quinton Mitchell's been getting burned a little bit there. So yeah, we're encouraging here for dialogue here in
Yep.
the comments. But yeah, Puka Nakua is always delivering. He's a great player. You could make the case he did not deliver in the Philly game, or maybe it was more Matthew Stafford's part, or maybe it was more Jalen Carter's part because they couldn't connect in that big play there. But for the most part, he usually delivers.
Yeah, and now we're gonna get to where we kind of are gonna bridge between news and notes and storylines. So, Rand, you know, Sean McVay was asked about the whole Tush Push situation with what happened with the Eagles against the Chiefs, and so the Rams plan to check with the NFL about Eagles after apparent multiple on-call offsides against the Chiefs. When asked about it by reporters, Maverick said, quote, anytime that you see a certain things, you have conversations with the league office to just make sure you're understanding how it's officiated. How can we coach it? It did seem some of those things last night, and that'll obviously be a talking point because they're such a damn good team, and it's such a successful play for them. So those are conversations with the league office, but I'm sure they'll have some ones and operate within the confines of not getting a little bit of a rolling start before the ball is snapped. So after what we saw, Gilbert, in that Philly game, like I asked you, is this the final year? Like, can you kind of expand on that, or what happens with the tush push now? Is this
Yeah.
it? Like, what's gonna happen as we head into the storylines now for Rams and Eagles?
Yeah, I think the reason why it didn't pass, but it was a close call. By the way, I think the people who voted to keep it were like, "Hey, like they earned it. Like they're like, we are not able to stop it. Like why are we going to take something away because we're complaining? We got sour grapes here." But the more the Eagles win this way, the more they make it ugly, and they're still winning when their quarterback is not passing for 100 yards, and they find the way to the Super Bowl again. I think some of those people that are thinking about competitive reasons are probably like, yeah, you know what? Let's get this out of the game here. Like it's gonna be a good chunk. I'll say maybe 3 or 4 that flip because of that. Like, you know what? I don't care about them being good at this and hurting them for that. We're not winning. And then there's gonna be another chunk that says, you know what? These games are kind of boring actually. Like the ones that think about money, like Jerry Jones. Jerry Jones obviously is a rival of the Eagles. He doesn't want that for them. But you were thinking about like product and the value of the TV networks and getting the best contract, and you're having clunky games like that all the time. People don't want that. So I can see owners and coaches flipping from that. Coaches don't care about stuff like that. But, you know, an owner could be in your ear if you're a coach, like, hey, like, you know what? We gotta think about the money here in the long game. So I think it's gonna pass eventually. I hate that that's what it's gonna come to because the Eagles invest in it and you can't penalize a team for investing in something and being better than somebody else. But I think when you have Sean McVay vouching for a ban, Matt LaFleur vouching for a ban, all the guys who worked under Sean McVay previously, there's a lot of them that helps out
Yeah.
too. So to me, I will say it gets banned next year, but not this year, and that nobody could stop it, and that's a big advantage for Philadelphia.
Yeah, and I think part of it, as you said, I think the people that are mostly against it, that are not like these coaches, if you're just a fan of it, like as a fan perspective, I think it's just become super boring. Part of it too, it's not a football play, and so you understand where people are coming from. If you're an Eagles fan, you love it. It's helped you win, a Super Bowl now, and it shortens the game. And we'll get into how that affects you know the Eagles going forward, because that's part of it. When you have your quarterback throw for 101 yards in a game and you still win, that's an advantage for you. I remember watching a game last year with the Eagles and the Steelers where they just pretty much had possession of the ball for an entire quarter in the third quarter, Gilbert, and they just took the soul out of the Steelers in that game because of it. And so that's such a huge advantage. But at the same time, Gilbert, when you're a football fan and you want to watch a lot of teams score points, you can't have one team control a whole quarter with their possession. So I think that's part of the 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 thing that people are against, and I think what might end up being the reason why they get rid of it.
Yeah, the Eagles just they know how to avoid third and long so they could get into these short yard situations to essentially get a free down. Like if it's 3rd and 3 and they get 2 more yards on third down, they're gonna go for it every time on 4th and 1 for the tush push. So like they're the only team that's able to operate that way where you know for sure you got no problem, having 4 downs and going for it. Like, and also too, like say you're on one of these long drives against Philly and like you finally get that stop on third down and it's like, all right, you know what? They got 3rd and 5 here. We could get them off the field and they just get a few more yards. They're gonna go for it. And like I saw that game against the Chiefs in the fourth quarter. Like a 3-point lead seemed like a 10-point lead because they couldn't get them off the field. They couldn't stop them in short yard situation. And then the second they stopped Jalen Hurts at the goal line, which I thought he maybe got in. I know Saquon really thought he did. They had another down to go, fourth down. Let's do it again. They're gonna get it. Like, it's pretty much 90% of the time they get it on third down. 110 on fourth down. Like this team doesn't miss here. And yeah, the game is ugly. It's clunky. But they have the horses for a reason. They invested in it. If you're the Rams and your strategy is to not invest in the back end of the defense, well, that's the downside. You play the Eagles, you're gonna probably lose. But they
Yeah.
got Nate Landman. Let's see what they do. Maybe he is the next Zach Vaughn. Maybe he's 2.0 Zach Vaughn. So sometimes it's about matchups. And if you're not facing the Eagles in the playoffs, this method that Les Snead has where he's cheaping out on linebacker and secondary, maybe that's enough to get it done. But if you're drawing the Eagles, and the Eagles are usually going to be in the playoffs, that's not a good recipe. That's why I'm waiting to see. All right, the changes that the Rams made, is that enough? Was invested in another wide receiver the right play here, and Devontae Adams, or should he have gotten another linebacker or cornerback on the market? Obviously, it depends on who's available too, and then who's available in the draft. But I just don't know, Vic. I don't know if they've done enough to stop the tush push or to get off the field when it matters.
Yeah, and we'll see. And we'll talk about some of those additions when we get to the Ram side of things. But let's stay here with the Eagles. I want to make sure we talk a little bit about their storylines here, continuing on with the conversation outside of the tush push, because this team has a lot of things, you know, that they're good at, and they also have some deficiencies in their team that the Rams can take advantage of. So let's start off with the offense here for the Eagles, right? They have a new offensive coordinator in Kevin Patullo. Um, and they become more of a run heavy offense under him, more than they were under Kellen Moore, who they had more of a balanced attack, at least through the first two games. So much so that AJ Brown and Devontae Smith are each averaging 4.5 targets per game, Gilbert, and they've only combined for 13 catches and 104 yards. Jalen Hurts has a total of 253 yards, no passing touchdowns, no interceptions in two games versus the Chiefs and the Cowboys, as the team ran second in time of possession, but they're 29th in total yards. So can this Eagles team, like you just mentioned with the tush push and everything that they do, where they just turn a game ugly and they just continue to win, can that be the recipe for them to win another, to get to another Super Bowl?
Yeah, because I saw the Chiefs do it all the time. The Chiefs haven't been the explosive Chiefs for a long time, but they've made it to 3 consecutive Super Bowls by just kind of zombie walking and getting by, winning the margins, winning at the line of scrimmage, playing good defense, and then letting your superstar quarterback make the plays when they're needed. And that's what the Eagles are becoming right now. And people don't view Jalen Hurts as Mahomes, but I've seen Hurts make plays all the time. They always, discredit him. They always say, well, look at the stats. He's not a good passer. He's not top 10. Like, you need decent quarterback play to win the whole damn thing. And I think he's done it. Like, he had a great Super Bowl against the Mahomes Chiefs when they were a little better offensively in 23, I think, or 22. I forget what season that was. He did have a fumble in the Super Bowl. I get that, but he carried that team, and I think to me that said a lot. Even the Packers wildcard game, I thought Jalen Hurts made some good plays with his arm. For the most part, he had some good plays against the Rams, but that was mostly a Saquon game where he ran off. Uh, he lit up the Commanders. I thought he did enough in the Super Bowl too, as well. He got some. I know there was a pick six there from the defense. I know, uh, that was more of the Chiefs not doing anything, but I thought he did his part too as well. Jalen Hurts, that is. So uh, they could definitely make it to another Super Bowl playing ugly football. And the scary part about it is like when they need to throw the ball, I think Hurts could do it. He has the horses and AJ Brown and Devontae, and that's the problem, Big. When you've been smacked in the mouth for so long with the running game, and you're thinking, cool, we survived Saquon, cool, like there's not gonna be a running play, and then Hurts drops in the back in the pocket. It could be two things. He could run with that damn football like he did in week one against the Cowboys. That's part of being a quarterback. He makes the plays. I know he's not passing it, but that's a dangerous element. And then when he's on the run, you got to still cover AJ Brown and Devontae downfield for how many seconds? It's a lot of discipline, and they just beat you up mentally, physically, in so many ways that, ugly or not, I think that's going to work and get them to another Super Bowl.
Yeah, and that's why I think, when we get into it, I think for the Rams is they have to control their side of the ball. Like they have to get out to an early lead. That's why I always thought, even in the game against the Eagles, like, or try to receive the ball first and try to get ahead on this team, because then you make them try to have to score right away, as opposed to letting them score first and you're the one having to catch up, and they can control the momentum of the game. So that'll be something to kind of keep an eye on. But in terms of them winning ugly, yeah, this is a recipe. Like, you're starting to see it all over the league with the Chargers, with some of these other teams, where they're just saying, you know what, we're going to shorten the game. We're going to let our defense do a lot of the work. But here it's a lot of their offense. They're the ones controlling. It's the opposite, where you're relying on your defense for another some of these teams. With the Eagles, it's like, look, we have a weapon here with the tush push. We're gonna take advantage of it. We're gonna control the clock, and we're going to submit you to the point where you no longer want to be part of this game, and it's going to be boring, and nobody wants to see this. So I think that's the thing. As long as you win, that's all you care about. So I think that's the thing, is until things change, you're going to be able to write that to a Super Bowl, I feel like.
Yeah, Henry Camacho said it best. Ugly is another just win. So just
Yep.
find a way to win. Who cares if it's
Yeah.
ugly,
A win
pretty,
is a
no
win.
style points. A
Yep.
win is a win.
Yeah, I'm with you, and we'll get to the rest of those comments when we get the. I just want to get through, these storylines with the Eagles, and then we'll get into the Rams, and we'll have a big conversation. And I want to get those comments on here. The other part of it, though, this is where you can take advantage of the Eagles. I feel like they lose four starters on their defense, Gilbert, from last season. A lot has changed since the playoffs. They haven't looked as good through the first two games. You have Adoree Jackson, who replaced Darius Slay. You have safety Andrew Makuba, who replaced CJ Gardner Johnson. Outside linebacker, you've been kind of going back and forth between Jalex Hunt and Josh Uche, replacing Josh Sweat. And now you have Jihad Campbell, who, they had Oren Burks, who actually replaced N'Kobe Dean, who got injured late in the season, and they've had him. So you lose four starters, and they haven't looked that great. I think part of what's carried this team through the first two games has been their offense. So will losing four starters, Gilbert, on defense be too much to overcome for this Eagles team? And do you see, like, I guess, Big Fangio? Is this something where relying on Big Fangio is where, you know what, I don't need to worry about that defense just because I know who they have as their defensive coordinator?
Honestly, I think it comes down to, can you create pressure with just four guys? Because if you're able allowing Cooper DeJean to maybe help out some of these cover guys, where he's not having to play, slot cornerback as much, where he's able to kind of just see, okay, what's going on here? Can I protect here? Can I make a play here? And not worry about having to be a blitzer because you can't get a pass rush with four guys. To me, that's big, because Vic Fangio loves to be flexible with that chess piece that Cooper DeJean is. So we saw it in the Super Bowl. We saw Jalen Carter and Milton Williams, who is now with the Patriots, and Nolan Smith Jr. They were able to create pressure with four guys there. So, I know Jordan Davis, the replacement for Milton Williams, has not been great. There's a other couple guys there I'm blanking on names on that are supposed to replace him too. So they got more numbers, not as much star power without Milton Williams, but you got Jalen Carter, who I think is one of the best defensive tackles in the NFL. And can you get Nolan Smith to produce what you had with Josh Sweat? That was a big loss too. He's not a superstar name, but he's a consistent playmaker. And I think a lot of these guys were feeding off of the guys you mentioned that left and in free agency. So that's a big loss. But the one thing about GM Howie Roseman, he knows it's hard to pay everybody. He knows that people are going to take the bag and move on. So he's always investing in positions in the draft to know, okay, you might not play the first couple of years, but we'll have you ready for when your time comes, and let's see what you do there. And credit to him, even with the pick with Campbell, the linebacker. He just signed Zach Vaughn, and you would think they're set there. They're like, no, we need more numbers because you just never know who you're going to lose injury wise or free agency wise, trade wise. This team doesn't settle, so I'm not worried about that. But yeah, if you're not able to create pressure with four guys, that's where like the numbers are a little they're changing a bit because Vic Fangio loves this too high shell where he doesn't want anybody to get beat downfield, and you're not able to do that if Quinion Mitchell's getting burned, if he's not the real deal who benefited from playing from a veteran field secondary, then that's going to take away from what Vic Fangio wants to do. And kind of a sidebar here is like I had trouble deciding who was better between Cooper DeJean and Quinion Mitchell, and it's like, well, Cooper is very versatile. He does so much, but like it's not easy defending the number one receiver on a weekly basis on the outside. So I was favoring Quinion more, but I'm starting to see that like it was Cooper DeJean that's holding it up. Like Quinion was benefiting from playing with CJ and Cooper and Darius Slay, where now he's a little bit on an island and not as much help. So when it's kind of the same thing with Kyle Hamilton and the Ravens, right? We're like, if Kyle Hamilton's not being asked to help in coverage and he's able to be a free roamer, that's when they play better, I think. But it hasn't been the case. Kyle Hamilton has been needed to play center field, and that's the thing with Cooper DeJean as well. If he's a real chess piece, usually that the result is pretty well for a big Fangio defense.
Yeah, and talking about pressure, that's been the biggest issue so far for this Eagles defense. And where I kind of like, we'll get into some of these comments here as we get into the keys, but they only have 2 sacks. They've only sacked Dak once, and they only sacked Mahomes once. So, but they're trying to create. I saw a lot more blitz packages in that Chiefs game than I've seen before from a
Yeah.
big Fangio defense, and so that'll be interesting. That'll be something to kind of keep an eye on in this game, whether or not Big Fangio tries to throw some blitzes at this Rams offense. Um, and it showed me a lot too, Gilbert. And I know, especially playing in the elements there with the snow last year, the fact that the Rams were able to move the ball on this Big Fangio defense, that because for a long time it seemed like Big Fangio had McVay's number. And so that'll be something to keep an eye on, limiting the pressures by the Eagles in this game. And I think that's it. I think it's a big thing too that you lose 4 of those starters. How long is it going to take for Big Fangio to be able to have the guys he wants out there to be able to call specific plays? I think that's also the fact that you're getting the Eagles early in the season where you can take advantage of it. If you're Sean McVay, I like their odds here, but yeah, I just feel like watching those first 2 games, being able to watch that Dallas just move the ball on, and I get it. There was no Jalen Carter. I know everybody, but then even having Jalen Carter back, you the Chiefs were able to move the ball even though they didn't have the same. Look at what the Rams are going to be able to have against them. Devontae Adams, Puka Nakua, they can throw a lot of offensive players at them. So that'll be something that I want to keep an eye on in this game, and I think it'll be a big key.
Yeah, we'll get to the Rams at some point, but I think what the Rams did offensively could maybe hurt the Eagles' defense where they lost these 4 starters.
Yeah, and we'll get into it now. Let's go over to the Rams and let's get to these comments because I want to make sure that we get everybody here involved. It's good to have everybody here in the comments. Delver Salgado says, "No snow, we win." Defensive coordinator Shula, third time around. My opinion is the key is along with keeping Stafford clean. Go Rams, puros cuernos. So good to hear from Delbert there. Henry
Yeah.
Camacho says these 2 teams are similar in the more money is being spent on offense while the defense is what keeps both teams in games. I would agree with that. That's
Yeah,
pretty on point
that's fair.
there.
Yeah, draft
Henry
and
continue.
develop.
Yep. Henry continues says I would like to see both Corum and Williams punish the Eagles defense. I think that's a big key, right?
Yeah, you definitely got to control the clock, and I won't get into my take yet, but that's
Yeah.
probably the biggest part to beat the Eagles is by controlling the clock, playing the game on your terms, and the more you could kill the clock, the less you see the tush push on the other side.
Yeah. Henry continues on here. He said it's early in the season, so a loss for either team won't hurt too. although the NFC West is tighter so far.
3 teams are undefeated. Three 2-0 teams.
Yep. And then
That's
I
the
think
only
everybody's
division in
above
football.
500. They're all at 500
Yeah.
or above.
Seahawks are 1-1. Cardinals 2-0. 49ers 2-0. Rams 2-0. It is the best division in football right now.
Yep. Brian has a question for you. He says, "Where is your LA Kings hat?"
Yeah, Brian. Just a quick background story. Being a football reporter, I can't have any favorite teams, and so I don't wear football hats. And then I kind of got tired of wearing Dodger hats all the time. That's like the only team I have here. Laker hats are not. They're not appealing. They don't
They're
look
not
nice.
cool.
You're not cool. Dodger hats are cool, but I have too many of those. And you know what? So I said, why not hockey hats? Whenever I go to a new city, when I was in Seattle, I got this bad boy there last year. I was in Vegas over the summer. I got the Golden Knights there. And I'll put it this way, Brian. I don't know crap about hockey, but I like the hats, and there's no conflict of interest for me as a reporter. But I do need some LA Kings hat. But I'll say this, Brian. I think I'm leaning towards getting an Anaheim Ducks hat first because I live in Orange County and Anaheim is down the road. So I don't know. And I like that they're going back to the old school Ducks logo. So quick sidebar on hockey there. But I will get an LA Kings hat eventually. I think their logos look cool too.
There you go, Brian. Uh, Henry Camacho says Shelton at center is a plus. I like the Randstad on the O line.
Yeah.
In terms of the injury report, it looks like Avila was working on the side today, so there is a chance that he plays in this game.
Yeah, that'd be big. I think the offensive line has been a nice surprise. They've been playing well. They've been run blocking. They've been helping out Stafford. So, yeah, if you get your full lineup out there, I think Shelton has been better than what I was expecting after what he did in Chicago, and that was more Chicago's problem than maybe Coleman Shelton. So, yeah, again, control the clock, run the football, push them around. Let's see what they do.
All right, we have a Philly fan in here. Scream. He says, "With all the starters, job will lose. We call y'all Saquon's favorite team at my house." I mean, I can see why. I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah,
Saquon's pretty much had 200-yard games in both games against the Rams last year, so I
yeah.
can
If he
totally
does that
see that.
again, they're gonna lose again. The Rams, that is. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
you can't allow Saquon to run for over 200 yards. Brian Smith says, "I think I'm the only Rams fans who doesn't believe we can compete with Philly."
Ah,
That's a good thing. So there you go.
yeah. You're
S
just being a realist. Bad matchup.
Yep. Scream says, "And we have the youngest defense in the league and are growing, and they did way better against Patrick Mahomes." Uh, I would say the other guys when they faced the in the playoffs played better than the young guys, but they were at Arrowhead. So, like I said, it's gonna take some time for that Philly defense to come together. They have a lot of young guys, like you mentioned. So I feel like playing them early is a good thing. One last one here from Henry. Going back to the Bears game and to it, McVay has learned how to deal with the Fancho system. So yeah, that was pretty much what pretty much wrecked the McVay offense, and the Patriots exploited in the Super Bowl and took advantage of it.
Yeah, I'm ready for these Rams storylines here because
All right.
I want to get into Devontae Adams talk.
Yep, let's do that. So, talking about like moving over to the Rams now, Gilbert. Most of the Rams offseason moves seem to be geared towards beating their Eagles, going out and signing Devontae Adams, Puna Ford, Nate Landman. That was a name that not a lot of people were like, "Oh yeah, that's a guy you went out to go get." But we're all made to cover a lot of the weaknesses. Philadelphia exposed in their first two matchups, as Scream brought up. Saquon ran over 200 yards in both of the matchups. Um, so Adams allows the Rams the ability to be more balanced on offense instead of being heavily dependent on Puka Nakua, because as we saw in the playoff game, they took away Puka Nakua,
Yeah.
while defensively Ford and Landman shore up the run defense that got Saquon those 200 yards in both of those matchups. So will the changes over the offseason be enough to beat the Eagles in this matchup and eventually in the playoffs?
I'll say defensively, no, but I think I'm gonna put more stock into the Devontae Adams signing being more of a play to match up better with the Eagles. And I know that sounds a little weird because he doesn't play defense, but we know this team doesn't invest in the back end of the defense, and they invest in wide receivers. They invest in skilled players offensively. I'm sure they'll pay Jared Verse when that time comes, but they're just not used to paying. Unless you're like an all pro, you'll get paid for sure. Other than that, you could be on the chopping block. If you're not Aaron Donald, like you won't get paid. But they do pay wide receivers, and I think Devontae Adams were, you know, too many people are making a thing of like they don't have a vertical threat. They don't have a speedster. They don't because you want your three guys, right? You want your slot guy, you want your receiver, and you want your guy who could be the vertical threat who plays more of a Z. Uh, but it's just football is not meant to be played the same way as everybody having the same personnel, the same skill set, and I think having Devontae, it was a little weird because Devontae needs the ball a lot, but he's not a burner. Same thing like Puka Nakua needs the ball a lot, but he's not a big downfield threat. He'll get some big chunk yards. At least Devontae. I think Devontae is better at those 50-50 balls where he's not fast, but he'll come down with them, when they're contested. And Puka Nakua is pretty good to an extent when it comes to that. I'm not trying to limit him. But the point is you have two guys that could make plays and get first downs and just make plays sideline to sideline. It won't come in a hurry. It won't come in bunches, but they're going to get you first down. It's going to be third and short, automatic to Devontae, automatic to Puka Nakua. And what are you doing while you're getting these long drives? You're keeping the Eagles offense off the field. And if you're able to execute for a long time and then end those drives with a touchdown, like that puts so much pressure on the Eagles, and you take away what they want to do, which is they want to make the game muddy. They want to control the clock. They want to run the football. They want to make you feel gas. They want you to feel like you've been out muscled, and you don't have the mental fortitude to keep up. So if the Rams are playing keep away with Devontae and Puka Nakua, and they're just kind of taking their time and they're ending these drives with touchdowns, and we've been talking about the Eagles secondary being shaky, the Eagles being young defensively, like I can see Devontae Adams and Puka Nakua giving them a lot of trouble, and you got to get the running game going too. We can't forget about the running game. Blake Corum and Kyron Williams, your O-line might be healthy now. You got Matthew Stafford. So if you have these long drives, and sorry to call out the Raiders, big, and you're not finishing with touchdowns, you're not going to win. If you're going with field goals, you're going to lose. So if you end these long drives, even though they take 10 minutes, you're going to win probably if you got touchdowns. So to me, I think Devontae was added to be a piece to potentially beat the Eagles. I know that he's not playing defense, but to me, this keep away style could maybe benefit them against the Eagles. If you're playing the Lions and you're playing in a shootout, not having burners and vertical threat guys, that's where it could hurt you. But with the Eagles, maybe it's a benefit to have two guys that have the same skill set.
Yeah, and I'm with you. I think that was a big reason why McVay made sure that he put in the full court press to go and get him, was because he knew what he can mean to this offense, especially what they weren't getting from Cooper Cup anymore. And I think my biggest thing was, okay, well, is he willing to do the dirty work? You don't really need him to do the dirty work because you have Jordan Whittington, doing the dirty work. And you look at the snap count now,
Oh
Gilbert,
yeah.
he's out snapping, so I just don't want to keep bringing his name up, Tutu Atwell, just because it feels like we just dunk on him.
Yeah.
But that just tells you that, the number 3 guy is Jordan Whittington. And and then you have your tight ends. And then I would like to see more 12 personnel in this game, especially against that Eagles defense. But in terms of the moves, they were all geared towards beating the Eagles. I mean, they saw what they needed. Yeah, you're not saying, "Hey, go out and shut down Saquon Barkley and hold them to 50 yards." You're not going to do that. But going out and getting Puna Ford, getting a Nate Landman who can, you know, who are able to stop the run. You're trying to limit his output there. You don't want him going for over 150 yards. You want to limit him to under 100 yards if you can, and then you take your chances that that defense can continue to get to Jalen Hurts like they did in the playoff game. You got 6 sacks on that offensive line that is the best in the league. So, you don't have a Mekhi Beckham. You have a new right guard there as well. So take advantage of it. It's take advantage, make sure you have the Eagles on 3rd and long, as opposed to, hey, if they're 3rd and 5, 3rd and 2, you know what they're gonna do. They're gonna try to milk the clock, run the tush push, and then you're at their mercy. But I feel like yes, the moves that they made were they didn't look around. They looked around the NFC and they saw, hey, if we're gonna get there, we need to beat the Eagles. They didn't look at the Lions, even though I feel like the Lions, are probably a little bit of a team too that they need to make sure that they look out for and they're making moves. But it's just the Eagles have been more consistent over the last 5 years, Gilbert.
Yeah, like I'll be clear and I'll say this. Like I thought the Rams should have done more defensively to combat Saquon Barkley and the Eagles, who are not gonna, just roll over and get out the way for you. They're gonna be there. They're gonna be in the mix. But one thing that maybe I'm overlooking, and maybe one thing that Les Snead is putting more stock into, Chris Shula and Sean McVay, is the growth of the young defensive front. Like, yeah, you guys got whooped against the run. You got whooped by Saquon. You guys are rookies, first year guys, second year guys. Can you now take pride in your work and get better? And guys like Tyler Davis weren't emerging last year. He's around now. You have more depth now, like you mentioned with Puna Four. I know Puna Four was a ride, just a ride, but Byron Young seems like he could get better. Like Byron Young had a great game last week. Maybe there's something more
He's
than just
he's
being.
been the best defensive player. I mean, he got a 90 grade on PFF. Take whatever you want from that. But like I said, like my eyes told me that he was the best player, and then PFF told me that he was the best player on that field against the Titans.
Yeah, there was times where I felt like it was just Jared Verse making the impact plays. So now if you have more guys to make impact plays, maybe I know Braden Fist didn't practice. I forget the reason.
Yeah, he didn't play most of that game either. He
Yeah.
went out with an oblique.
Yeah, so hopefully he's healthy and ready to go. But he's a second year guy. Maybe he got better too. Kobe Turner, maybe he worked on the running game too. So maybe Nate Landman is that big of a difference. But also part of it is like you got young guys who are emerging and getting better. And I think that's a lot of the stock that Leslie's putting into to keep the philosophy of having expensive wide receivers and you pay guys like Puno Ford. Uh, I still think they need more in the secondary. I still think they need another big physical downhill runner or linebacker that is. But maybe Nate Landman shows out and tells me I am the next Zach Vaughn. I'm here. I'm ready. And playing the Tennessee Titans and the Houston Texans is one thing. Playing the Eagles is another. So let's see what they got.
Yeah, and I mean, we'll see if Omar Spates takes that next step
Him
too,
too.
Gilbert. I
Yeah,
think
good
that's
point.
someone to kind of keep an eye on. But I'm with you. I'm still iffy on that secondary. We'll see if they make the necessary adjustments in this game to be able to hold up. Quinn Lake had a better game. He got kind of exposed against the Texans, so it was good to see him bounce back. And Darius Williams, after not having any snaps in the first game, coming back in the second game and you know, uh, you know, being told, hey, you got to be ready to go, and he was ready to go. So
Gonna be
shout out
needed
to
a
him
lot
for.
more. Yeah,
Yep.
it's gonna be needed.
All right, Gilbert. Let's get to the keys to the Rams win versus the Philadelphia Eagles. Where do you want to start? Do you want to start on offense or you want to start on defense?
Uh I guess I'll go with the defense for the Rams and keep doing what you're doing, Byron Young. But I want to see a game where like what Jared Verse did in the playoffs, like he was a one man wrecking crew, but not like if you get everybody involved, like you invested heavily in the defensive front. So let's have a game where like, you know, the Falcons on Sunday Night Football, it seemed like all the draft picks came through and got sacks on JJ McCarthy. If the Rams are able to get a complete performance from the front, where everybody has half a sack or one sack, and then you look up and it's like 6 or 7, like damn, that could be a key there for smothering Jalen Hurts and Saquon Barkley if you get a lot of pressure and create havoc in the pocket.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're on the same level here in terms of we know what it comes down to, right? It comes down to stopping Saquon Barkley and Jalen Hurts here from gashing them with long runs. We saw in that playoff game, Jalen went for a long touchdown, on the right side, and then you see Saquon, breaking a bunch of runs. So, some of the things that I like that I've seen from the Rams is that they're one of 6 teams that hasn't allowed a rushing touchdown. So they've improved there. I think they've only allowed one touchdown in the first 8 quarters. So there's something. There's also that. The thing is, though, man, the Eagles are a different breed, like you said, Gilbert. The Eagles are 5 for 5 in the red zone. They've scored touchdowns on all 5 of their possession. and then just continue to put pressure on quarterbacks like you have. I mean, it seems like what was it, like week 14, week 15, where they're just started racking up sacks. They're second in the league right now with 8 sacks. They had 5 against the Titans. And so just continue. Like they even had like 5 sacks against the Eagles. So it's not like they haven't gone up against good offensive lines and not had good had sacks. So I think that's the thing. Continue to put pressure. And as I said, you want to keep this team in third and long, second and long, so that way they don't chip away at the clock and they don't have they're not able to be in third and one, third and two where they can run the tush push.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. And on the offensive side, like to sticking to the theme of like going on your strength and what you build on. And defensively, they built on the defensive front and the pass rush and getting enough guys there and the post Aaron Donald era were like, yeah, you don't have an Aaron Donald, but you have 4 or 5 really good guys. So that's why we're talking about the defense. But offensively, their strength is wide receivers, or pass catchers to be exact, because you got maybe Ferguson does something the rookie. He hasn't really done much, but Davis Allen's got a touchdown. You still got Higby. Kyron can make some plays out of the backfield every now and then. But your strength is Puka Nakua and Devontae Adams. So to me, if this is the way you're going to build your team, Les Snead and Sean McVay, then your strengths better show out and deliver against a team like the Eagles. So I do have questions about the way they built their back end of their defense, but if you're that dominant at wide receiver to control the clock, and then when the time comes for your edge rushers to make money, it could go a really long way. Like honestly, like if these moves pan out for Lesney, he could maybe be executive of the year. But again, I just don't know if it's gonna pay off with the Eagles, and we're gonna find out. But you gotta lean on the wide receivers. You brought Devontae Adams for a reason. You brought it up, Vic. They had
Yep.
a full court press on Devontae to bring him in. Now let's see what you were thinking about Sean McVay for bringing him in.
Yeah, and kind of going off of that, Gilbert. My and I've been on this for the last couple years now with Sean McVay is just the red zone play. It hasn't been good. Like they're 5 for 9 so far, which ranks 21st in the NFL. And you were talking about the Raiders earlier. When you get to the red zone, you got to be like the Eagles. You got to score touchdowns. You can be settling for 3-yard field goals there. I think that's a big key. If you get in the red zone against these Eagles, you got to make them pay and score touchdowns. The other thing, Gilbert, on offense, you can't have Kyron Williams rushing for 66 yards and expect to win,
Yeah.
in consecutive games. Yes, get Puka and Devontae involved, but the trenches, you got to win the trenches here. You got to, if they're going to play keep away, you have to continue to run the ball, be able to rush for 100 yards. I forget what the stat is with Kyron Williams when he rushes over 100 yards and what the Rams record is. I'm sure it's really good. And then the last thing, Gilbert, protect Matthew Stafford. As I brought up earlier, the Eagles defense has not put a lot of pressure on the first two quarterbacks they faced. They've only gotten 2 sacks, so don't allow the Eagles defense to break out and have their first multi-sack game of the season. Continue to do what you're doing, keep them upright. And yeah, that's a recipe to win this game.
Yeah, no, I'm with you because they could break out at any moment when you have Jalen Carter. If he's creating pressure in the middle of that, offensive line, that's gonna make life easier for the edge rushers. So, yeah, they're not playing well for the first 2 games, but it doesn't matter to me when you have a guy like Jalen Carter. So you better protect.
And you're playing at home, so that crowd's going to be,
Yep.
into it, especially going up against the Rams and
We,
what they saw in the playoff game. So,
we've seen the
uh,
comments. These Eagles fans are rowdy, man.
yeah, they're ready to go. They feel like, hey, it's just the Rams. It's just going to be another win for the Eagles. Let's get to a couple of these comments and we'll close out things here with our game picks. Henry Camacho says, "Too bad it's an early game." That's the thing,
Church.
Gilbert. It bothers me that this is a 10 a.m. game or 1 o'clock on the
Yeah.
East Coast. This should have been a 4 o'clock game on the East Coast and a 1 o'clock game here in on the West Coast.
Yeah, I'm definitely with you. I know we're pressed for time, but let me look at real quick. What's that 125 game? Do you know?
I don't
Uh,
know off of hand because I
because
know
it
it's
has to
not
be better than this.
Chargers Broncos, is it? And
Oh
it's not
no.
is it
Yeah.
Cowboys Bears? Because that's the one
Yeah.
that
Yeah, it's Cowboys Bears and then you got Cardinals 49ers. I'm sure Cowboys Bears is America's game of the week. So
yeah.
yeah, I'd rather have Eagles Rams. Come on.
I don't understand why they chose that. If Eagles fans and Ram fans, if you want to talk shit about the Cowboys, do it because there's no reason why Cowboys and Bears should be the game of the week over the Rams and the Eagles. So if you want to talk shit about anything here with this matchup, do it with that
Hey,
one because you have a gripe there.
I was gonna say like maybe Henry could change. I see the other comment here. Maybe he could change church time to go on a different night or a different time.
Yeah. Go earlier or something like LaBria sports fan says, "Are you able to go to church another time?"
Yeah,
Hey,
come on.
there is church on Saturdays too.
Saturday, there's a late service on Sunday. You can make it work, Henry.
Yeah. Delver says 2-2 over the top and Cardi for the win. So that's what he has. And then
Yeah,
DJ Fono says, "What's up, Ramalia? I just want to see Whittington with his first TD." I think everybody's waiting for that punt return. Maybe it's in this game, Gilbert. Maybe
I feel
Troy
like
Reader doesn't hold somebody and people
I
don't
feel
get
like
pissed at him.
Whittington is never gonna be a guy who gets 100 yards receiving, maybe never a touchdown, but you're always gonna need that guy on your freaking
Yep.
team. Like he's gonna do the dirty work, he's gonna set people up, and maybe that's okay. But it would be nice if he gets one. Like I feel like it's gonna happen like later in the season where like people want it. It's like they're playing some crappy team, they're up by 30, and like, you know what? It's time to get Whittington in here. It's your time. He's like that old school fullback that just never got the praise, but the 1,000 yard rusher always had to mention him in pressers. That's Jordan Whittington.
Yeah, I feel like McVay is gonna do what he did with Devontae Adams against the Titans, where he's gonna will him to try like he's gonna try to pepper him to get a touchdown in the red zone there. Just do like a do a what is that, like an end around where you can get him on a run there. So
Yeah, Puka got
yeah,
one.
we'll see. We got Happy Gilmore as well. He says LFG Rams. I don't want to
Yeah.
say the whole thing because we don't want to
Let's freaking go. How about
go.
that?
There you go. That works. All right, Gilbert. The Rams are 3.5 point underdogs. The over under here is 44. What's the right side of this line?
Yeah, I know people don't like moral victories here, but I think the Rams are going to cover, and I just don't know if they're going to pull it up. But we'll get my prediction in a bit. But I've been saying the whole show. I got to see it to believe it defensively. I think Devontae Adams is going to make an impact. Puka Nacua will, but I don't know if they're big enough defensively. So, you know, I'll go, with the other side right now, but I think the Rams keep it close, and I think it's gonna be a moral victory talk where like you feel good about it, like hey, like kept it close. I know people don't want to hear that because the playoff game was a similar kind of like hey, you kept it close, but this one feels it's gonna feel like damn, like they did a good job on Saquon. Damn, like it wasn't a tush push that really killed this team. So they'll keep it close, but being in Philly on a tough road environment, it's going to be tough for me to say they're going to win this game. But the points I'll take for the Rams, and I think a lot of people, when it comes to sports betting, have been taking the Rams, so they're getting a lot of support.
Yeah, and I'm with you. I like the Rams to cover, and I also like the over in this game. I feel like these teams are finally going to move the ball around. They're going to need to. Um, so we'll see. We have Rudy says he took the moral victory last week. So
If you're talking about
he's
the Raiders, that was not a
yeah,
moral victory. That
moral.
was a beatdown. Come on, get out of here. That was
All
you didn't
right,
score a
Gilbert.
touchdown. You don't get a moral victory. You don't score a touchdown. Come on.
Yeah. Where are you at here with Rams and Eagles game prediction?
Yeah, so it was what 44 the line there. It's kind of a low line, don't you think?
There's a reason for it
Yeah,
because
these are the Rams are a good defense, but like you mentioned, the Eagles defense has been great, and the I feel like Devontae could get some points here. So I have something weird where like it's like 24-21, or what is that, 45 points there. So I'll take the over. I don't feel good about it, but I feel like 44 is kind of low. Give me the over here. You know, I don't know if the Rams could get 3 touchdowns, but give me 24-21. Eagles take the victory, and the Rams get the more victory. That's a real more victory, Rudy.
Yeah, that's a real. Uh, I'm gonna go the other way. I'm feeling positive here with the Rams. I like what I've seen the first two games, Gilbert. Like I said, I haven't liked what I've seen from the Eagles. Yeah, the ugly, playing ugly and winning games, that's great and all, but you haven't really faced a team like this yet, where I feel like you have guys that can hurt you. And yeah, the Cowboys were able to move the ball on this defense without Jalen Carter. I understand that, but the Rams defense is legit, I feel like. And the reason they went out there and made the moves was to be able to go and beat a team like Philly. I feel like Big Fangio doesn't have, things rolling like he'd like to. I think it takes him a little while to figure out how he wants his team to run. As you remember last year, Gilbert, they lost to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers early in the season, and there was question marks about this Philly team. And I feel like they're gonna lose this game, figure things out, and then they'll go on a run again. But I feel like in this game, I like the Rams,
Oh,
and I like them to win here as my light just went down.
did you have an
But yeah,
earthquake
maybe
over
that's
there?
maybe that's a good sign or a bad sign. I don't know. Take it as you will, Gilbert.
Yeah.
But yeah,
While you get your stuff together, what was your score again, Victor?
I like the Rams 27-20.
Okay, so you got the over. You got a 7 point victory for the Rams there. That's a tough one there, but yeah, I got the over two there, and I don't feel good about my pick for the Eagles. I think the Rams did enough in the offseason to keep it close, and that's why I'm talking about more victories. But I think I got to see it. I got to see Nate Landman be a thing. I'm not gonna give them credit for Texans and Titans. That two teams are winless right now for a reason. Uh, and then like say you do stop the run, like it's not an easy feat to stop also AJ Brown and the Devontae. Like people are making too much of a big deal of the passing attack, but I'm like they haven't needed it. So when you need it, can the DBs cover AJ Brown and Devontae? That's a tough ass too. They're just too many weapons. Where like people are too caught up on the ugly football, but I'm like, they could do more than that. And we'll find out if the Rams are ready for that.
That's why I like the over in this game because I feel like the Eagles are going to be forced to be more than just playing ugly
I could see
football.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, and so they're going to have to get AJ Brown. They're going to like there's the whole talk about him not being involved as much as they should. They're not running routes for him. Devontae Smith has more yards than him and more they're tied in targets with both with 9 so far. So I just feel like they're gonna make the Eagles be able to play a little bit better football that they have the first two games. And it just feels like they're gonna have to score a little bit more, and it's gonna be a more of a up and down game where both of these teams' offense are gonna have to, move the ball on each other. And I just feel like the Rams are the better team right now, earlier in the season because they have their stuff together.
Yeah. I think it's the first time this year that we're split. I think the
Yep.
first game we were both Houston. That did not work out. Last week we were on the Rams. There was no jinx there, even though it seemed like it at first. And then
Yep.
the Rams pulled it out. So we'll be split here. I'm taking the Eagles. You're taking the Rams. And regardless, I'm expecting a good game. A good, I hate saying playoff preview this early, but it could be that.
I'm kind of hoping we get that game we got between the Rams and the Ravens a couple years ago, where it was that
Oh,
same
yeah.
10 a.m. window where they were just going back and forth. Everybody was thought it was going to be like a low scoring game, and then all of a sudden, like both of the offenses just were going back and forth, and it was won on a punt return by the Ravens.
Yeah, I remember that. That was 2023. Yeah, the punt return there. So that's when special teams wasn't good for the
Yeah, that
Rams.
was their special teams is a lot better too now.
Yeah.
All right, Gilbert. Well, we've done everything here to preview this matchup. We got all the comments on here, making sure that I did. There we go. So, Gilbert, we got everything here. We gave out all our knowledge in terms of this matchup. Now we get ready for Sunday morning. For those who have to go to church, that sucks, but maybe you can change things around there and you can watch this whole game because I feel like it'll probably be the best game of the week. And unfortunately, just like it was with Giants and Cowboys, it's going to be on the 10 a.m. Window.
Yeah, maybe Henry, maybe don't change your church time because you were probably at church last week when they were playing the Tennessee Titans and they beat the Titans. So keep a
Yep.
good thing going there. Send your prayers there and say, please, Saquon, don't go off for 200 yards. But you'll figure it out, Henry. But yeah, check out everything we're doing on Compas on the Beat. We got a lot of content. Victor and I just finished week 3 of Game Week with the Compas. That's where we preview the games of the week, the 3 best games of the week to be exact, and then we do a lot of our best bets. We break down some games where we see some value in terms of betting. We give you some super dogs, we give you some good favorites, we give you everything there. So check that out. If you're on TikTok, you want to talk fantasy football, check out Compas on the Beat. Check out my personal TikTok at GMonsanto24. We do that on Thursdays to talk fantasy football 1 hour before Thursday Night Football. If you're willing to talk more football on Monday, you got Lunes Live. You want more football on Tuesday for Compas. You want to talk about Chargers and the Broncos. What's Up Bolt has you covered. We're doing everything here on the Compas on the Beat network.
Yep. You got it all there. Look at you just out there just promoting the rest of the network here. But Gilbert, I think it's time for us to go. We've done everything we can to preview this matchup. Everybody has all the knowledge here. We're ready to go and get ready for week 3 between the Rams and the Eagles. So get us out of here.
Yeah, let's get out of here. Again, check out everything on Compas on the Beat, but it's time to get going. Ya nos vamos, pues. Vámonos.